Greetings, Conover City School staff. This is Aaron Gabriel, and I wanted to kind of end this year on a similar note of how we began it. And just thinking back a few months ago, we were at the middle school at opening convocation, and I was talking to you guys about 2020 vision and having to wear shades to be able to handle the bright future that we were all going into and facing. What an exciting time it was indeed. So we started the year with a plan and we had the vision to see it through. However, everything changed on March 14th. As I stated before, Plato quipped that necessity is the mother of invention. Sometimes you have to work through the unknown because something is generally better than nothing. And as you look up top at this image, you see the Mr. Stick figure with the expectation and the straight line to success. But the reality often, it's a jumbled up mess before you get to success. But we have to make conscious choices, and sometimes we have to do whatever we can at the time. I remember hearing a story told by comedian Jerry Clower who talked about a guy that was having great success fishing. I know we have several staff members who are avid fishermen, so maybe you can relate to this. There was only one person in the entire community that was having any success fishing. And finally, this one gentleman said, "I'm going fishing with you because I am going to find out what you're doing differently." So, the person who was having success said, "Sure, no problem." So one day they go out and they get in the middle of the lake, and all of a sudden, the one gentleman reaches into his tackle box and pulls out a stick of dynamite and lights it and hands it to the guy who was kind of coming along for the ride. And that guy's sitting here holding a sparkling stick of dynamite and says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You can't do this. This is illegal. You're going to kill all the fish." And that guy simply looked at him and said, "Are you going to argue or are you going to fish?" I think that's where we found ourselves, guys, back in March, and we've been doing our best to fish ever since. Coronavirus, this ugly little booger that we see on the screen here, rocked our world and has changed the way we're approaching learning for sure in the present, and I have every idea in the future as well. Looking back, it would have been much more fitting had this year's theme been Hindsight 2020 rather than 2020 Vision, because if we had known at the beginning of the year what we know now, we would have all likely done things differently. For about 2.5 years now, we've been talking about digital convergence and about how adapting to our changing society as educators and an educational institution is going to be imperative in meeting our students' needs and in meeting society's ask of our students as they enter the workforce. We were well on our way, focusing on the foundational elements of architecting a student-centered culture where students took greater ownership of their learning, and we worked to clearly articulate our shared vision and students' learning goals. However, no one expected that we'd be tasked with facilitating remote instruction for weeks on end with no morning and no little time to prepare. But you guys did it. As a former English teacher, this analogy really gives me anxiety, but I think it's true. Our end goal of our Navigate work is to prepare all teachers in our district to personalize learning for their students. And I don't want to confuse personalizing learning with remote instruction. But if we all know how to personalize learning, we can make the most of any remote learning situation, either short or long term. Consider this analogy. We've been laying a foundation for preparing personalized learning in our district, and that's the equivalent of finishing 8th grade math. Some teachers, like many students, are well above the standard and have been able to exceed the expectation. Other teachers may be right on track, and others might not quite have mastered all the content yet. And that's okay. What COVID-19 has been like is this. We've all finished 8th grade math, and we were all ready for Math 1. However, instead, we've all been enrolled in AP Calculus. After the initial shock of the drastic change and the gaps in our readiness, I can't say enough about how so many teachers have risen to the challenge and work hard to meet the needs of our kids. What these actions have really indicated is that growth mindset is alive and well in Newton Conover. Our current reality has been a challenge unlike anything we've ever seen in education. We've been forced to work harder, try a variety of new things, learn from failure, reach out to others, and develop new skills. Your growth mindset has made a great deal of difference for our kids during these challenging times. We always talk about our Newton Conover family, but over the past couple months, that family spirit has been more evident than ever, not only with how you guys have approached teaching and learning, but also in seeing how our Kid Connection folks have taken care of kids during this time, and how our child nutrition folks and our teacher assistants and other support staff have made sure that our kids haven't gone hungry. It's truly, guys, something that's amazing and very heartwarming to see, and I can't thank you guys enough. Each of you has risen to the challenge of ensuring that our students are supported, that they're fed, that the adults looking after their academic, social, and emotional needs. Thank you for everything you've done for our students and for each other as we've learned to work, teach, and serve remotely. One quote I've always really loved is by Maya Angelou. That goes like this: I did then what I knew how to do, but now that I know better, I do better. This is so true of every aspect of life. As we think about what we've learned from this experience, I think this quote especially holds true. From the time we began our Navigate initiative, we envisioned a long-term goal of ensuring we're building a foundation and working towards becoming a district where personalized learning is the norm. We discussed and mapped out all the steps to be successful in the 6 drivers of leadership, instructional models, modern curriculum, our digital ecosystem, professional learning, and community. Prior to COVID-19, we'd put so many foundational elements in place to address digital convergence and move us towards readiness for personalized learning. A few of the most visible elements we'd put into place are having a system-wide learning management system, developing a district instructional model, offering a digital teaching and learning resource site that can be filtered, partnering with K64 and the 1 Million Project to provide devices and Wi-Fi to many of our students, building a single sign-on site for teachers and students to have easy access to online resources and tools without having to memorize multiple passwords, and providing professional learning around student-centered culture. Who would have ever known that this preparation would be as valuable as it has been over these last few months? I'd like to use one more analogy regarding our work with Navigate. If you look at the homes above, we can see that these houses were not built on a firm foundation. They may have had amazing hardwood floors or energy-efficient windows or extremely luxurious furnishings, but without a firm foundation, none of that meant anything when the storms came. So how does this relate to our professional learning around Navigate? I know that many of you already see how the work you're doing with Navigate is foundational and will help us achieve our goal of personalizing learning for our kids. However, because we're in the foundational stages, it's sometimes a challenge to see how our work with architecting a student-centered culture and our work with unpacking standards and building learning roadmaps might lead to this. However, it is the foundation to high-quality teaching and learning that will keep our house strong when we later add additional components to our instructional home. This map helps us all see how our foundation is building towards personalizing learning. One of the things we mapped out is our professional learning plan for the next few years, but like you, we had to drop back and punt and adjust. We moved one of our elements of year 3 as an option for teachers this year as the content was extremely timely. Although some of you are still moving forward with your professional learning, others have needed to slow down and focus on instruction in a remote environment. We had worked to accommodate and personalize for each level of folks. The goal is that we all keep growing and moving forward at each person's own pace. As we learn more about what instruction will look like next year and what your needs are, we'll continue to be flexible as we move towards our end goal of personalizing learning for our students. We know that this remote learning situation has not been ideal, and that in a perfect world we'd never choose to not see our students or to have kids choose whether they want a PC-19 or a grade. But you guys have handled this situation with grace and compassion. But we need your support as we move forward. I wish I could tell you what August is going to look like, but I can't. The state's been very clear that we need to make a plan for a variety of scenarios for next year. But in order to do that in an informed manner, guys, I need your feedback. This will be our 3rd and final remote learning survey that we're sending out to our teachers. We ask you just take a few moments over the next few days, if you would, provide your feedback to us so we can best support each of you. You can find the survey in this email that this presentation link came with, and we'll add the survey link to our ELT notes for staff next week as well. All right, on to school calendar. This past Monday night, our school board adopted a new calendar that's slightly different from the one that was passed back in January because of the COVID Recovery Act, State Law 2020-3. By the North Carolina General Assembly has required a few different tweaks, and I want to just kind of point these out to you guys And you can find this calendar on the Newton Conover City Schools website homepage under school calendars. The law is going to require us to begin school on August 17th. That was not optional. So we have to start on August 17th, which does kind of shift our start date by a week. We had to have 185 days of instruction or 1,025 hours. In Newton Conover, we always work towards the hour requirement instead. We also had to include, as part of that 1,025 hours, 5 remote learning instructional days. And we also had to add 5 additional days onto our school year on top of the 1,025 hours. So we're addressing that by beginning school on that August 17th. And as such, we're also going to have to bump back our start date for staff, which was initially going to be around August the 10th. And now that has moved back to August the 7th, that Friday. As of right now, we're holding that date on the 7th as our convocation date, but that convocation may be virtual. But either way, it will be our gathering back point to prep us for the opening of school, and we're going to need every single day of that to prep for it. So we just want to make you guys aware of it. As far as the remote learning days, the board kind of helped spread those around the year to help break up these long gaps of time we had without a break, which will help with providing additional time for the building to kind of air out and be sanitized, if you will, but also to provide a little bit of a gap time also for our kids here and there and for you as staff. So again, there'll be more to come on this, but I just want to make you guys aware of it, and you can read all about it on our Newton Conover City Schools webpage. At this time, we're planning on having our school bell times remain the same as they did this past year. The one tweak is you see on the school times document from last year, from this current school year, should I say, 1920, we have early release days. We will not have any early release days during the 2021 school year. As this will be the last formal communication I plan on having via video to you guys before summer break, I just wanted to remind you to keep your eyes out for the weekly executive leadership notes for staff. Dr. Mullins does a great job of pulling the high points off of our agenda that has any relevance at all to you folks out in the field. And so just again, encourage you to keep your eyes open for that, because some of the info that will be sent out this summer will be layers of our reentry plan, what the remote learning days will entail, because we are having to put together a plan that has to be turned into the state by the end of July, July 20th to be exact. And so that's why we're also needing your feedback on that survey. But all that information we will try to keep in a steady flow throughout the summer. And so again, keep in touch. Remember to listen up to any communication your principal sends out, and keep your eyes open for the executive leadership notes. In the classic film The Shawshank Redemption, the lead character Andy was at his wit's end. He was wrongly accused of murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison. It was during this time he began devising a plan of escape to get himself to a place in Mexico where he could live out the rest of his life on his terms. It was in this scene when Andy, speaking with his best friend Red, made this powerful statement I think rings true to us anytime we find ourselves in seemingly hopeless circumstances. We all have to choose to either get busy living or get busy dying. So I choose life, and I encourage you to do the same. And I encourage you to encourage your peers to keep hoping and keep working, because a better day is coming. We will all be a little different as a result of the 1920 school year. In some ways, I'm saddened by things that have been lost. Feeling of security, ability to stay physically connected, etc. Same times have been reinvigorated by what's been found, which is reconnecting with my family, reconnecting with some old hobbies, and just being able to sit out on the porch sometimes at night. Things will likely look and feel different when we reconnect in August, and it's important that each of us mentally and emotionally prepare for this fact. What will stay the same is the unwavering focus on giving our students what they need to help them survive in their present condition and prepare them for a future we can only dream of. And my commitment is to serve you as best I can, and that will not change. So as we end up this 1920 school year, I want you guys to remember that I'm in your corner, and so is my boy Flavor Flav.